who loved the man, the late engineer Edward Idris Amana. Unfortunately, he passed on at age 73. My name is Ruth Aguele, and it is my honor to be in your midst, together here with my colleague.
My name is Ukeme Udofa.
All right, we'll quickly just recognize dignitaries present here in our midst. We would like to recognize the presence of the former Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Thank you very much, sir, for gracing us with your presence. We'll also like to recognize the presence of Dr. Tom Adaba, the pioneer DG of the National Broadcasting Commission. He's one-time principal of the NTA TV College. He has served as GM, NTA Makurdi, and he has demonstrated a lot of passion during his tenure. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. We also have in our midst Mr. Modibo Kawo, former Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
We also have representing the Executive Secretary of Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria. His name is Umar Usman. And of course, we have the Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority. He's being represented here by the Executive Director, Admin and Training. His name is Nansel Nimyo.
Thank you very much, sir. We also have someone very dear to the late engineer Amana. I know a lot of us here are very dear to the late engineer Amana. We'd like to recognize engineer Bolariwan Yomi, former chief engineer at NTA Abeokuta. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. MBC, sorry, okay. I was just reading out the profiles. That was just the start. He has served as that position as the chief engineer at NTA Abeokuta. He also served Director Engineering, MBC, and also former Director General, MBC, and he's a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you.
We also have one of our own on this other side of the podium, Eugenia Abu. She's also here with the husband, a former SE to the former national chairman of the PDP.
Please, a round of applause for them. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. We have in our midst Professor Armstrong Idachaba, former Acting Director General for the NBC. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you very much, sir.
The executive directors in NTA are also here present. We have the executive director of special duties, Adamu Sambu.
Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you.
The executive director of marketing, Mrs. Betsy Iheabunike. The executive director of engineering, Ije Osagie.
We also would like to welcome and very key personalities who have contributed a whole lot and put in so much effort to see today's event come to light. Members of the committee who put this together. We have the former executive director, engineering, NTA, Engineer Stephen Moses Okpanachi. Please, a round of applause for him. And we also have Mr. William E.J. He's also a member of the committee and a close friend of late engineer Amana. He's put in so much work. Please, let's appreciate him.
We also have in our midst the former executive director of engineering, Engineer Umar Seidu. We have so many engineers here. We have Engineer Gregory Badamosi. And then we have a former director of programs, multi-channels, Ray Yusuf.
We also have in our midst engineer Shola Taylor, someone who has served as an engineer with NITEL, Imasat, ITU, a man who has contributed a lot in his field. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. would like to recognize all the directors here present from the Nigerian Television Authority, all the general managers here in our midst, colleagues, friends, families, and associates. As the program progresses, we'll definitely recognize dignitaries who have taken our time to be part of this special event. Thank you. Please put your hands together for yourselves. I know it's not a day to be joyous, but of course, it's a time to reel out legacies the late engineer Amana has left behind, and those will be done in special words, words of wisdom, to remind us of the impact he made in some of our lives. Some of us may not have been privileged to meet him in person or work with him, but you all would, attest to his contributions to the broadcasting world. Without further ado, we'd like to make welcome the NTA choir. I'm sure they're very set to please give us the opening hymn. Are they set for us, please? Okay, please go ahead. Thank you. Please, a round of applause for the NTA choir. A warm round of applause for the NTA choir, please. Thank you very much for setting the mood and the tone for tonight's event. Hello. Okay. I know in your hearts, you all know why you're here, to pay tribute to a man who has touched you one way or the other. And we want to quickly recognize, before I forget, members of the family. We hear the children are here. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us. In your hearts, I know you're all aware, and you know who the late engineer Amana is to you. Every one of you here, you know, have your own special thoughts about the man in your own special words. But let's get abreast with, you know, more about why we're here. So we want to call on Engineer Abayomi Bolariwa. He's the former DG NBC, to tell us why we're here. Please, a round of applause for him.
Thank you very much for the beautiful protocol. And as usual in this part of the world, I like to stand on the existing protocol. My weight has reduced, so I'm sure it can withstand my weight. Why are we here? We are here to celebrate the sights, the sound of the life and times of Edward Idris Amana, a certified engineer of the Broadcast Engineering Division, a member of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, a member of the Institute of Electrical Electronic Engineering, a member of the American Broadcast Engineering Society. A beautiful human being, true and true in all its ramifications, in all the definitions you can give to it in the English word. A man who was the first director of engineering of the National Broadcasting Commission, the second executive director of engineering of the National Television Authority. That is why we are here. I thank you on behalf of all my colleagues. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, once more, let's appreciate Engineer Abayomi Bolariwa, the former DG NBC. Thank you so much. Very straight to the point. Now you know why we're here. And we're getting to that moment where we get to hear from you the tribute you want to give to this man of honor, the man who has touched your life one way or the other. And we'd like to start by calling on the Director General, Nigerian Television Authority, Comrade Salihu Abdulhamid Dambas, who is ably represented here by the Executive Director, Administration and Training, NTA, Mr. Nansel Nemiel. Please, a round of applause for him.
The former Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, former Directors General here present, management of the Nigerian Television Authority, my former colleagues, senior and otherwise here present. I'm delighted to welcome you to this sober occasion We've already been told why we're here. But I believe that for each and every one of us seated here this evening, we have various reasons why we're here. Primarily, to celebrate the life and times of one of us who, in going through the system, has left a legacy worthy of recognition and worthy of being mentioned and acknowledged, tonight. Engineer Amana was different things to different people. He was an engineer by profession, but seeing him in the course of his work, as he related with the various departments, you would be pardoned to think that he belonged to another directorate other than engineering. He was as comfortable in the news directorate as he was in the programs directorate, as he provided support to each and every one of these directorates. Even in retirement, Engineer Amana did not leave NTA entirely, because from outside he was still giving the management of the Nigerian television pieces of advice, and the Director General, who I'm representing here tonight because he's unavoidably absent, did mention to me a particular incident where Engineer Amana showed the level of commitment that he had for this organization, where he gave the greater part of his life. He recalled the early days of the movement of NTA from this site, known as DOMSAD, to the permanent site, and the challenges that he encountered. And one of the voices that encouraged him to continue with the movement to the new site was that of Engineer Amana. He recalled that he was so committed that he was on a trip from the US to the country, and as soon as he got to Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, on alighting, he took a vehicle. Instead of going home, he came straight, to NTA. And he looked at the level of work being done. They told him the complications regarding whether there was a formal handing over or not, and all that. And all he said was, "You are on the right track. Keep going." And today, anyone who has been, to the permanent site of the NTA would say that it was a decision that was well considered and well taken, thanks to the likes of Engineer Amana. NTA is what it is today because we are riding on the shoulders of great giants that went before us. Without a shadow of doubt, I make bold to state that one of those giants was Engineer Amana. For me, growing in the system, when I joined NTA, the fond memories, of course, that I have of Engineer Amana, of course, is his infectious, smile, which we are privileged to, see once again, even though it's in form of a picture. And he took in even young people under his wings and treated us as if we were equals. At a stage, you would wonder, is this an executive director? But that was the atmosphere under which some of us learned. Tonight, we are gathered to show our appreciation to someone who lived by example, to someone who exemplified integrity, excellence, and focus in all that he did. Tonight, on behalf of the NTA family, I want to say that we owe a debt of gratitude to Engineer Amana and the likes of this great engineer who set the foundation upon which some of us are trying to build tonight. I would like to convey our deep condolences to his children who are here with us tonight. Again, this arena has hosted, happier events. But I think we couldn't have found a better, venue to say, farewell to a very dear friend and colleague of ours, your father. He lived well. We are proud of him. And I believe you too are very proud of his accomplishments. So on behalf of the entire NTA family, we ask God to comfort you and provide you, the fortitude to bear this irreparable loss. I'd like to thank you and say farewell to an icon, Engineer Amana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Director General, Nigerian Television Authority, Salihu Abdulhamid Dambus, who is represented here, beg your pardon, by the Executive Director, Administration and Training, Mr. Nansel Nimiel. Thank you. Please a round of applause for him once again. The words are painful to come out, especially when you lose someone so dear to your heart. We'd like to recognize the presence of the Director General, National Broadcasting Commission, Mr. Charles Ebuebo. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Thank you. We'd also like to recognize associates, colleagues, and friends who have joined us via Zoom using, I was told the director, former Director General of NTA, Dr. Tony Radia, is also part of those who have joined us via Zoom. Thank you so much for choosing to be part of this remarkable occasion. Please a round of applause for our online audience. We would also like to recognize Madam Grace Egbagbe, the former Executive Director, Marketing, NTA. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. We'll pick up with recognition as we progress. At this juncture, we would like to call on the Director General, National Broadcasting Commission, Mr. Charles Ebuebo, for his tribute. Please a round of applause for him.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I was asked to give a speech. I don't know whether I should read what I've written or whether to speak from the heart, but I'll do a little bit of both. All right, because for me, I remember when I first met him, a perfect gentleman, and his considerable way of speaking, his advisory, his calm nature, his way of addressing issues, all those things still stands out for me. And like I always say, it is important what people say about you when you're gone, because that is either true or false. But in his case, everybody here would agree with me that he's paid his dues. He's laid the foundation for us. For some of us who are just coming on the scene, he has been a pioneer of sorts in many ways in both the NTA and the NBC. And so I would say we're here to celebrate him. We're all gathered here to celebrate the life and legacy of Engineer Amana. For me it is a honor for me to stand here today and to speak about the life of a great man. I recall when I saw him during the Africast event when I was newly appointed, I had no inclination. He had any illness that he was, facing any challenges, and like I told his daughter when we were speaking, I said, it reminds me a bit of my dad. You would always, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You procrastinate on some things. But now he's gone and I don't have the opportunity to do that. But I do celebrate him. I honestly do. He was not just a colleague. He was somebody that has a human heart. I'm told of the different roles he played both in the NTA and the NBC long before my time. The kind of work he did. I recall speaking to him in another capacity when, as chairman of DG team, his ideas, his views concerning the DSO, the several challenges. I mean, I can laugh about some of them now. Then it wasn't funny, but he has done a great deal of work, apart from the work, the dedication, and the benefits of his work will stay with us long after he's gone. I also recall his jovial nature. A few of those times when the NBC would have retreats or programs, and he would, in his usual way, very jovial, gentle. In the evenings, he has his way with leisure. I don't want to go into some of those details right here, but it still brings a smile to my face, because he knows how to be gentle. Will I use the word we usually use, enjoy himself in a peaceful, nice manner? And some of us, we took lessons from him to be gentle in our ways. So all in all, I want to thank God for the life of a great man. I want to appreciate the work he's done. The benefits, I pray, for what he's done would impact on his family and his children. And they would, long after he's gone, receive the benefits of the foundation he has laid. So I wish him, that his soul will rest in peace, and that for the family, I pray God will give you the fortitude to bear this loss, and as much as humanly possible, we will stand by you at all times. Thank you. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. May we please recognize the presence of a former Executive Director of Programs, Mr. Peter Igo. We also have a former Executive Director of Engineering, Shaibu Nda Adama. And also a senior management staff, a former General Manager, NT International, Ngozi Nsien. We also like to identify with the children of the deceased who are here. We have Ede Amana, we have Michael Oneku, we have Vidoko Amana, we have Junior Amana, we also have Iye Amana. We'll now move into the next program on the list, and we'll call on the pioneer. We'll take the mic to the pioneer DG of NBC for a short speech.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please, I seek your very kind permission to sit down. First, I was not able to go up to the podium. And secondly, even if I'm here, I might not be able to stand for long because I'm still battling with the surgery I had on my spine. And it was just imperative that I should be here because of who Eddie Amana has been to me. So please hold me excused for sitting down. Ladies and gentlemen, if I am to tell you where I should start from, I'll say from ground zero. But let me just walk more on the professional things I know about Engineer Eddie Amana. The social elements are aside, not even to talk of when he lost his very dear wife, and his comportment in carrying all the various challenges that came to him as a result of that. Well, as it pleases God, they are both in his heavenly kingdom. May their souls rest in peace. Way back in the mid-70s, around 1975 or so, when we had the Benue Plateau television station was set up, which later became NTA in 1976. Engineer Eddie Amana came around to do his youth service along with the pioneering staff of NTA, then BPTV Jos. There were 3 of them, and they were unique. He, Eddie Amana. I wonder if Joshua Hassan is around. Joshua Hassan, who is somewhere in Adama or Taraba, wherever. And there also was one John Okonu. 3 young men, very, very active, extremely creative, and very professional. They came in at about the same time. That's a credit to then Engineer George Baku, who later became Bishop George Baku of Lokoja Anglican Diocese. Engineer George Baku was the head of engineering in Benue Plateau Television. And these young men were such a wonderful relief, I believe, to him and to everybody, because we didn't have any problems with maintenance of all the equipment in NTA Jos. And our picture quality was very clear. In fact, the credit for being the first color television in Nigeria goes to Engineer Eddie Amana, the other 2 gentlemen, John Okonu and Joshua Hassan, under the leadership of then Engineer George Baku. They did such a wonderful job, and indeed it was a thunderstorm when it was announced that NTA Jos was now in color. The others had to follow. Well, it's okay. We believe that we're quite in a very good shape, but we led, and thanks to people like Engineer Eddie Amana. One other striking thing about him, when he was still a young man, I don't know what he became after, when he was getting older, was he never parted from a novel. He's an engineer, but he was an avid, voracious reader of novels. And that gave him an excellent command of English. He did a very good job of it. Thank him I thank God for him for that. That's a remarkable thing in NTA jobs. In 1990, when I was posted to Lagos as an assistant director, he had already been posted to Lagos as in the engineering department. And we were there. And one day, the governor of Kogi State invited me to come and help set up the television station for his people in Kogi State. And I had to tell him, Your Excellency, I will not be able to do this on my own, except with the assistance of some other people. And I would need 2 people. The 2 people are Engineer of then Bishop George Bako and Engineer Eddie Amana. He agreed, got clearance from all concerned, and went in to do the job. Went in there in February. We completed the entire thing and started showing pictures on Mount Patti in NTA Lokoja in May. 3 months within which the television station was set up. And that was a record in broadcasting in Nigeria. Thanks to these wizards in engineering. The third was when I was appointed the Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission. I needed people who were to assist me in that direction. And of course, Engineer Amana was a very ready expert or professional who will fit in very well in the area of engineering. He applied, we gave him the employment, and again his wizardry was simply unique, iconic, in the sense that within a very short while we were able to get ourselves sorted out. We got the various things that needed to be collected for the processing of licenses. We got the licenses, got everything done. People now began to come in. But we saw that there was going to be a problem with equipment. Yes, with equipment. So we had to place orders for some machines in Germany. And when the machines were ready, we were told to come down to take a look at it. We went down there to Germany, Eddie and I. And when we got there, these people were treating us like, oh, these Africans might not know too much about all these. And let's handle these things like eggs. And indeed, what happened? The man who was handling it introduced the machine to us and so on and so forth, and said, we will take 3 days to get used to the machine. I didn't know much about this. Eddie was already an expert in that direction. And so when he said, why don't you take a good look at it? Eddie, go ahead and do it. Eddie went, he started off, he touched this, and this German was so uptight. He was hoping that Eddie would not make a mistake and touch the wrong button and what have you. Eddie handled this thing like as if it were something he had been handling before. he did it so beautifully as an expert that this German looked at him and said, we don't need any more days for orientation. This is what I wanted you to do, and the man whom you brought has already taken care of everything. So, and unashamedly, this German was requesting in my very presence that Eddie Amana should please leave NBC and take up a job with them in Germany. And I said, that's impossible. So within hours, Eddie was able to take care of this. And we got the equipment we needed. He confirmed that everything was all right, and we're ready to go. So these, thank you. These three items I'll just want to hold on to and simply say, these are things that make him unique. These are things that have made him the expert that he had been. These are things that had made him not just an engineer, a scientist, but also a humanist. And he has done a very good job of them all. He gave a very good record of himself in the NBC and made me very proud, and made the ministry proud, and made the nation proud. Eddie, I praise and thank God for your life. You have lived it, and lived it very well. Meritoriously, and we pray that God Almighty will grant you eternal rest. We pray fervently too for the children. Please walk in unison for the good of your family and in memory of your very dear parents who have passed on. May God give you the grace and the fortitude to bear this loss, as we also bear the loss. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tom Adaba, the pioneer DJ of NBC. And we also recognize the presence, acknowledge the presence of Engineer Joshua Hassan. And we also have Senator Nicholas Ugbane. And Engineer Nosa Osawe. Dr. Sam Negedu. We also have Mr. Mark Imakbere, also a former Director General of the NBC.
Thank you, Keme. And at this point, we would like to call on our next speaker to pay his own tribute to the late engineer. Of course, you know the late engineer contributed immensely to the broadcasting world. So we have a representative of BON, that is Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria. We have Mr. Umar here with us, who is representing the Executive Secretary, BON. Please, a round of applause for him.
Good evening. The former Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Muhammad, other invited guests, please permit me to stand on the already existing protocol. I'm representing the Executive Secretary of BON, Dr. Yemisi Bangboshe, who would have loved to be here, but due to other official engagements, I was mandated to represent him. And without taking much of our time, I will quickly read through his tribute. It goes, there is a bus stop for every born of a woman. It is the time and place that is not known. This is the mystery of life. A passenger disembarks, the bus moves on. Everyone to the same destination, but the bus stop differs. It was when I saw the photograph of the ever-smiling, soft-spoken, and robust-looking engineer Edward Amana displayed a condolence register opened for him at the premises of the NTA headquarters in Abuja, that it finally dawned on me that the broadcast industry has lost a role model, a mentor to many, a versatile yet very humble leader. A couple of years ago, when I met him at a broadcast summit in Abuja, I quickly recognized the talent embedded into a soft-spoken, brilliant, and forward-looking personality. Various activities and engagements in the broadcast industry brought me closer to a man that people always describe as their mentor and benefactor. I later become one of his beneficiaries. Engineer Amana's passion for the broadcast industry is second to none. He worked tirelessly without adequate compensation in his efforts to achieve total migration from analog to digital. The Nigeria system is a peculiar one. It can be frustrating. It can be so unkind. It requires the steadfastness and doggedness of a man like Engineer Amana to achieve what Nigeria showcased as achievement in broadcast digital switchover today. Engineer Amana's death is like incineration of Nigerian broadcast digital library. Although he has retired as a civil servant many years back, but what he had to offer made the federal government to appoint and retain him as the chairman of DigiTeam until his sudden death. Engineer Amana left broadcast industry when the broadcast industry needed him most. He died at a time we had hoped that broadcast digitization will have its feedback. Good night, our leader, mentor, and benefactor. May the Almighty God grant you eternal rest and also grant the family, colleagues left behind for the fortitude to bear the loss. Yemisi Bangboshe, PhD, Executive Secretary, Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, the representative of the Executive Secretary of BON. Please pardon me, Mr. Mark Emakparu wasn't a Director General at the NBC, he was a Director still at the NBC. And I also like to recognize the presence of Air Commodore Ogu Onekutu, retired.
I know some of us here are aware that the late Engineer Amana played a very significant role during the switch over time from analog to the digital transmission. He was appointed during the former President Goodluck Jonathan tenure as the vice chairman of the presidential committee. And afterwards, because of the good work he did, he was appointed chairman of the DigiTeam Nigeria. And it's only proper that we hear from the DigiTeam. We know that the deputy chairman is here in our midst. That's for the DigiTeam, Dr. Tunde Adebola. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols duly observed. In his highly insightful book, Ideas and Realities, Professor Abdul Salam, the late theoretical physicist and the first non-Caucasian to win the Nobel Prize of Physics in 1979, noted, "It is individuals that change society." How right he was, going by the life of engineer Edward Idris Amana, a towering figure in contemporary broadcast engineering in Nigeria, now, unfortunately, gone. Indeed, it is individuals that change society, either loudly or quietly. And engineer Amana did, very effectively, rather quietly. He started his career as a broadcast engineer in NTA Jos and had the privilege of piloting the nation in its transition from black and white to color television. He later found himself at the Marina headquarters, plying his trade and bringing up a crop of young, brilliant engineers. By so doing, he trod the footsteps of the likes of Engineer Teju Oyeleye, Engineer Vincent Maduka, Engineer Shingul Wigwe, Engineer George Bako, and a host of other pioneer Nigerian broadcast engineers to establish himself as a thoroughbred and consummate professional, an Iroko in the industry, as some colleagues have described him in tributes. An amiable, loaded, yet humble gentleman, a very decent and kind person, one of Nigeria's brightest and best broadcast engineers. An engineer with the gentle elocution and clear enunciation of a broadcaster. His work life in NTA and NBC speak volumes. It is usually said that a busy retirement is a great testimony of a productive work life. As chairman and CEO of Factora Consulting Limited, he helped many private individuals in Nigeria realize their dreams in broadcasting and telecommunications. He helped a number of African countries to achieve what Nigeria is still yearning for in digital television. His stature in the ITU and the Commonwealth Communications Organization remain a pride to our nation. I personally belong neither to the NTA nor the NBC family. It was as a member of DigiTeam that I had the opportunity to move close to engineer Amana. Digitization was a mystery to many Nigerians. Even engineers in the industry found it somewhat bewildering, broadcasting without a local transmitter. How? Engineer Amana, with a certain well-prepared PowerPoint presentation, made it a subject that Nigerian broadcasters finally understood. Even the more technical aspects, such as spectrum, was laid bare with Engineer Amana's pleasantly patient mien. His outstanding expertise in the area of his specialization of broadcast engineering tended to sometimes obscure his endowment as a manager of human and other resources. Engineer Amana was a broadcast administrator par excellence. We at DigiTeam enjoyed the leadership of a brilliant mind. We at DigiTeam enjoyed the leadership of a brilliant mind and a fair-minded individual. The hiccups that stagnated the transition were handled with grace. His good manners, smoothness, and sophistication, which defined his extraordinary cuteness with which Engineer Amana handled the issues. It was from him I learned the expression "ato" as a decent termination to a needless argument. Whenever Engineer Amana weighs in on a contentious issue, clarity usually follows. On one occasion, when Engineer Amana resolved what had looked like a contending issue with so much elegance, the chair of the meeting, the then Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, here seated, responded, Engineer Amana knows where all the dead bodies of this digital transition are buried. Such was his knowledge. Engineer Amana lived a life to his fullest, in a peaceable, no-hurry way, almost in a slow-motion mode. Sometimes when he walks, his head makes minimum motion, giving the impression he might be sliding on wheels. That is the level of easy does it that characterizes Engineer Amana. Be it his pepper soup, his roasted fish, his pounded yam, or his drinks, in which I benefited generously, they all went rather leisurely. But now, he is no more. And the transition from analog to digital television in Nigeria continues to stagnate. May his gentle soul rest in perfect peace.
Thank you so much, sir. I know our hearts are filled with lofty things to say about Engineer Eddie Amana. And I wish we could give us all the time for us to be able to talk about the good and the fond memories that we had with Engineer Amana. But actually, for want of time, we will appreciate it a lot if we could stay brief. There would be time for all the other, so that we could have time to be able to accommodate everything in the program. We'd like to call Bright Igbafere, the first secretary of NBC, to please come and give us his tribute. Bright Igbafo, sorry. Igbako, Bright Igbako, please pardon me.
Good evening, all. Not a very wonderful occasion for me to stand to speak, but I would like to appreciate the organizers for the ambush, because I never knew I was supposed to speak. However, I'm pleased to speak about Engineer Edward Idris Amana, the first Director of Engineering of the National Broadcasting Commission. Dr. Adaba has spoken so well about him, because he started from ground zero, according to him. I'm starting from 1993, a few months after the National Broadcasting Commission was set up. We were looking for an engineer. Someone had been seconded to NBC for a very brief period. We're looking for a permanent head of engineering directorate. And Dr. Adaba said, there's a gentleman we have to wait for. And then Engineer Amana came along. As has been said, he came in a very easy way, very breezy in his own way, gentleman, soft-spoken, smiling, as if we've known ourselves for a long time. But I was happy to see him. If this is a man we're getting to head our engineering directorate, then I believe we're in good hands. And Amana, Engineer Amana that I knew, was someone that could not take offense at practically anything. He had his way around even difficult arguments. The last speaker has said he will conclude by saying Ato. Truly, many of us got to learn that not a word from people like Engineer Amana. It was not in your interest to progress a debate that was fruitless in the presence of Engineer Amana. It will be terminated promptly, with his own way, not in any harsh way, but to let you know this thing was fruitless. It's been said about how humane he was. I would say clearly, Engineer Amana considered practically everybody in whatever he did. You know, I don't want to go into details, but he would say, let everyone be carried along in whatever we are doing. If it was for benefit, it was whatever. Engineer Amana was the kind of person who made sure that things went round for everybody. I wasn't into any of those nightlife, so I may not be able to talk about how he managed nightlife, but I know Engineer Amana enjoyed his life. And friends were comfortable in his company at all times. I've been given the signal to keep this very brief. That I will do now, but I will want to thank the organizers for the honor of inviting me to make a few comments about the life and times of Engineer Amana. I would like to tell the children, your father lived well. We'll continue to respect him, truly. He has left a wonderful legacy. We were present when your mom passed on, and the way he took everything, you know, till now, that's a lesson for most of us men to learn from. We'd like to thank him for teaching us a couple of things and for leaving beautiful people like you behind for us to continue to see and be reminded that Engineer Amana lived on this planet with us. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to appreciate all of you for listening to the few things I have to say. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, sir. The Holy Books say there's always a time for everything, a time to be born and a time to die. We're here for that purpose in demonstration that the late Engineer Amana, of course, has a way of bringing people together, which is clearly demonstrated here. We can see the unison in our midst. We'd like to call on the next speaker to pay his own tribute, Mr. Peter Eagle, former Executive Director of Programs, the Nigerian Television Authority.
Eddie Amana was a schoolmate. We went to the same secondary school, St. John's College, Kaduna. He was 2 years behind me. But after secondary school, we met again in the NTA. And of course, the family bonds we had from school continued there. Everything that Namsel spoke about, that every speaker has spoken about, covers exactly who Eddie Amana represents. I can't add to anything like that anymore to what they've said, except to say that in July, after I signed an agreement with the NTA to bring back Cockcrow at dawn, I had a camera crew that were going around interviewing people for their memories of the program. And they met Eddie Amana to interview him about me. When I listened to his responses in that interview, I felt that if you change the name Peter and put Eddie Amana there, that he was describing exactly what I thought about him. Someone who never gets angry, someone who is always with a smile, someone who has the softest, kindest words for anybody in any situation, someone who never gets angry, and who has a solution to every problem you go to him with. Sometimes, uncannily, you wonder, look, this is unsolvable. He worked under me in NTA Victoria Island, and I was general manager at NTA Productions, and he was the chief engineer. And we had no problems. Any problem was not a problem for Eddie Amana. And of course, all through the years, through the later years in our lives, he was the same. Calm, collected, soft-spoken, kind. Never a harsh word. Never seen in anger. And I think it's a lesson that all of us must learn. He was humanity represented and expressed. I spoke to him a few days into December. I was chatting with him. How are you? I'm down with fever, malaria. A few days later, I said, how are you feeling? I'm feeling a little better. I believe it's the drugs. I'm a little weak. A few days later, how are you doing? I'm resting very well. I said, take a lot of liquid, rest well. Okay, sir. I always call him Sir Amana, and he will say Sir, and he will say Sir Peter. Until I came back suddenly to hear he had passed on. No warning. And I'm still in shock to know that someone I was chatting with just a few days ago had passed on. But God knows best. I pray, like all of us are praying, that his soul rests in perfect peace, and that all of us, the NTA family, the NBC family, and of course the immediate family, will have God's blessings and the strength to bear his loss. May his soul rest in peace. Amen.
Thank you very much, sir. That was Mr. Peter Eagle, former Executive Director of Programs, NTA. All right, we would like to call, we've been hearing from the men, so let's hear from a woman who was also the late engineer's associate or colleague, whichever way you want to put it. We'd like to call on Madam Grace Egbagbe, former Executive Director, Marketing, for her words. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Goodness. Talk about a surprise. Let me take a deep breath first. I doubt that I have much more to add to all the tributes that have been paid to Eddie Amana. Eddie Amana was my colleague for a very long time, considering that I joined NTA in 1972. Now, Eddie, I used to call him Eddie, my love. And the reason was because if I wanted anything to be repaired, I was in programs at the time, I would call on Eddie and I say, please tell your boys to get this thing fixed. Then when I moved to marketing, you know what it's like. If you show an advert and it's shortened, or the advert is not clear, or they don't hear the sound, you have the clients calling you the next day and saying you have to repeat our adverts because we didn't hear anything and stuff like that. And who do I go to? Eddie, the master engineer. He was a very easygoing person, and I don't think, like Peter said, I've ever seen him angry. One day I said to him, I said, Eddie, I don't think you have a heart. And he says, no, I do have a heart. And I said, no, you don't, because people who have hearts sometimes get angry, and I have never seen you angry. He said, that's because you have never upset me. And I laughed, because I always upset Eddie. I want things like yesterday. And then he had this way of making you feel, when you're angry and you're raking, he makes you feel stupid. Why are you raking? Why are you, when you should be calm? So sometimes I think about him and I said, okay, maybe I can be as calm as Eddie is. Oh no, but it was very difficult. And Peter knows, Peter and I used to, Peter would rake, I would rake, and Eddie would not even move. So I thought he never had a heart, but Eddie has the greatest heart in this world. He had a heart full of love. And when he lost his wife, we were all heartbroken. And that's when I realized that he really does have a heart. Eddie, we all miss you. And we pray that when we die, we'll come and meet you in heaven. And this is a lesson to us all, that when we die, people will stand wherever they are and think about us with a lot of love, and that they will all miss us. I hope you'll miss me when I'm gone, because we all will go one day. but I hope not soon. Thank you very much. May your soul rest in peace, Eddie.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That was Madam Grace Egbagbe, former Executive Director of Marketing for NTA. Thank you for those kind words. Posterity has a way of telling our stories when the time comes. All right, we would like to call on Dr. Sam Negedu for his own tribute. Dr. Sam Negedu. Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for him.
Distinguished members of the dedicated chairs there, I wish to stand on the existing protocol. Teddy Amana, he was always himself. I'm not talking the engineer line or the NTA. I'm talking about the person that I've known for the better part of 50-something years. He was always himself. We attended ABU, and when we graduated in 1974, he was a very bright star. We left ABU and went for the youth service in the then East Central State. And as your very senior Miss Dr. Adaba said, he proved himself. He was the engineer with Senator Jim Wobodo, the sole engineer of the company, his technical company in Enugu. While we were engineers, he went to the university, the veterinary science, and installed their first X-ray machine, all alone. So, whatever he repeated later on in Jos, in Lagos, and in other places, and even the passion that he showed in his professional life, he never cared, and so many of you here know that, whether he was paid or not. Uncle Ted worked, and he worked very well. As a friend, the family of the Amanas, the first friend I lost there was Bridget 20 years ago. That committed to his family, he stayed dedicated to his children and saw all of them through. And we are grateful. He did very well. He was a good and notable member of our club, a club called Club 582 of Igala LS. And he was so unassuming, and it was a pleasure to be with Eddie. The last moment, on the 31st of December 2023, he called me and said, "Sam." I said, "Yes, Uncle Ted." He said, "I am very sick." He had never told me anything that close to that. And when I went there and I saw EA, our own dear EA, come into living room with Teddy, supported, I knew something was seriously wrong. Some of us knew how things progress. And it is sad that he left us so soon. We thought things could be put in order, but it never happened. His departure has left such a vacuum. But I'm happy that the children are on their own. And we, as members of Club 582, feel very bad because we've been burying too many of our own too soon. So much that in the past 6 months, we've lost quite a number of us. Pray for us. Thank you for doing this honor. The group from NTA that love him so much for doing so much. We are happy you've done this packaging, and we will have this permanent in our minds. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sam Negadu. All right. We want to hear a short story now about the late engineer Amana. To do that for us is engineer Stephen Moses Okbanachi, the former executive director of engineering. Please, a round of applause for him.
The former Minister for Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, the DG of NBC, the DG NTA, past DGs of NBC, particularly the pioneer DG, my uncle, Dr. Tom Adaba, other past DGs of NBC, past DG of NTA watching through Zoom, the pioneer DG of NTA, Engineer Vincent Maduka, Professor Tony Radia, Engineer Sunday Ibok, and then past executive directors of engineering, Engineer Shaibun Dadama, Engineer Umar Saidu, the directors, Engineer Badamosi, Nusa Osawe, and Zach Ali, and then on
course to smile. So let's take a cue from Engineer Amana. That's why he's looking the way he does. He's smiling all the times. So he's using less muscles, right? So if we take a cue from him, we will look, you will look the way he looks when you get to the stage he has reached. So we congratulate you and we thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
So on this note, I will remain standing and officially declare the 2020 Engineering Conference open. I wish you...
Yes, that is Engineer Amana, who was the resource person for 2020 Heads of Engineering Conference. The NTA then thought we had a lot of transmission challenges, and he was invited to provide solutions. And the solutions are the resultant effects in NTA Gashua, in NTA Gumin, and also in NTA Calabar. Those three places I mentioned today have transitioned from analog to digital complete in terms of terrestrial. I want to confirm and report that NTA Calabar is on test transmission on terrestrial digital. The next aspect again, Amana over the years had been linked with the turning point in NTA. When you want to talk about the expansion project in NTA, it is Engineer Amana that was behind the success of establishing 68 new NTA stations. It has never happened in the history of NTA. You also recall Professor Dr. Tom Adaba told us how himself and George Bako and Amana met to transform NTA Lokoja. Indeed, he just paraphrased. The 5 community stations, NTA Okeni, NTA Ankpa, NTA Ida, NTA Anyigba, all those places were their handwork. The 3 of them designed with the invitation from the governor then of Kogi State, late Prince Audu Abubakar. In addition to that, also, we all know about the DSO project. The last one he did was the one in Lagos. Can we have the video clip for Lagos DSO? That is a digital changeover.
The wallpaper, secretariat, the corporation infrastructure, the special government to set up where the elections by a competitive bidder. Okay, and
okay, please write it down. What that one is talking, he was talking about the white paper that was establishing the DSO, and he was trying to give a justification why NTA is one of the carrier, because there were many challenges that why should NTA as a government organization should be a signal distributor. And he explained, because of the expansion project, the government then felt they had spent so much money in NTA. So it would be wise for them to make NTA the signal distributor. So in various aspects, Engineer Edward Amana had contributed to the body of knowledge in the aspect of the broadcast industry. And we have talked so much about Engineer Edward Amana. Engineer Edward Amana was not only limited to Nigeria. Engineer Edward Amana was international. Can we now have the video clip about the role and the performance he played at the ECOWAS, where they were able to come up and agree in the whole entire Africa that the standard we'll be using is the DVB T2, that is terrestrial tool.
And I'd like to thank particularly the Broadcast Commission. In Nigeria, it takes 30 days for you to get a visa to come to Jamaica. But because of the combined efforts of CTO and the Broadcast Commission, they're able to fast-track my visa application in 1.5 weeks. That's how I was able to get here. I'm to talk about the DVB T2 standard in the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. And I want to go through this quickly, introducing who ECOWAS is, and then the modification to our digital plan and the decisions that drove us to the DVB T2 standard in ECOWAS region. And then I want to go quickly through how far we've come, and then our thoughts for the future, then we can conclude. ECOWAS is Economic Community of West African States, and it comprises of 15 states of the West African sub-region in Africa. That map shows in green where ECOWAS is in Africa. And this is the map of ECOWAS countries itself. Okay, at the RLC 06, a digital plan for the transition from analog to digital terrestrial television was drawn up for Region 1 of the ITU. The plan covered 174 to 230 megahertz in the upper VHF band and 470 to 862 megahertz in the UHF band. From standard definition to high definition.
I won't want to bother you so much about various video clips about the contributions of Engineer Edward Amana. Amana had really tremendously contributed greatly. And indeed, NTA will miss Amana. Embassy will miss Amana. The Digit team will miss Amana. The Bond too will also miss Amana. Africas will miss Amana. And also IBC and NAP. But in closing, before I say, I want to say two things with all sincerity in my mind. We are all gathered here this evening to celebrate the great work of an accomplished engineer. I pray when it is our own time to go home, they will have good report and will be ready to go home. God bless you all. In Jesus' name I pray.
Thank you so very much, Engineer Moses Okpanachi, the former Executive Director Engineering of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'd like to give this opportunity to two of Engineer Amana's children to please say a few things about their father. I'll call on Michael Amana to please step forward.
Good evening all. Welcome dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to stand on existing protocols. And it's actually quite surreal hearing my father's voice again. Like, I don't know, actually gives goosebumps. Now permit me to make a comic book reference. Actually, my dad introduced me to the world of comic books. I'm actually a comic and movie nerd. Now just imagine your dad died and members of the Justice League came. You saw people like Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and co. And they say, hey, look, you now discover that this person you are living with, Clark Kent, your dad was actually Superman. That's how awesome my dad was. Now, I'd like to say that my dad taught me all good things I know. The bad ones, well, I learned from somewhere else. Actually, that's actually a testament to his sense of humor. The kind of father he was, he lived by example. He never used to come and tell us that, oh, look, do this, do that. I mean, we could see it from him. Little wonder why at least 3 of his sons decided to follow in his footpaths. Anytime anybody comes to the family, I will say, okay, well, I'm looking for Amana, because they always refer to us as Amana. Like, okay, which of the Amanas? Say, Engineer Amana. Which of the Engineer Amanas? Before you now start describing something else. Then he always, and the kind of engineer he was, he's not a paper engineer, he's both theoretical and practical. He was always tinkering with his hand. There's probably nothing he couldn't fix. Basically, he had a lot of, he had a moving workshop in everywhere we lived. We always had a workshop. Then one thing about him, he always believed in merit. Most of what his children got, they got it based on merit, not based on his influence or anything. Then one thing I like to say about my dad again, he's generous, a man of integrity. I'm sure you've heard this a lot of times. He's easygoing, a jolly good fellow, and he's humble. I bet many of you do not know the part of him that he's actually from a royal family. Yeah, he's actually royalty. And every now and then, his birthdays, I used to make a reference. Permit me again to make a Game of Thrones reference. That's how I am. I'd always say, all hail King Edward of the House of Amana, the first of his name, Lord of the 5 kingdoms, friend of the free folk, connoisseur of fine wines and spirits, and knower of everything. Now, I don't want to say much. Yes, he passed on suddenly. Personally, if I could freeze time in a bottle, I would have it for eternity to spend more days with him. But I don't want to live in the past. Basically, I'd like to say my father lived a life well spent. I like to remember him for the man he was, all he represented, and the legacy he will leave behind. Finally, this may sound a little bit cliche, but it's actually true. There are people, it's one of my tributes to him. There are people you meet in this world that come once in a lifetime or once in a generation. But I stand here boldly to say, Edward Idris Amana, my father, our father, is one of those people that I meet that comes once in many lifetimes and once in many generations. Thank you.
Great words there and quite touching from the son. I'd like to call on E.A. Amana to please come forward.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for honoring my dad. I'll try to keep this very short, but before I do, I would like to say a very big thank you to the NTA and the NBC, not just for organizing this beautiful event, but for giving him a platform and the opportunity to grow and evolve into the engineer Amana you've all come to know and love. He wasn't just a father to us. He was our friend. He was our teammate. And when our mom passed, he took the role of mother in our lives. So it was really difficult to know that we didn't have a mom, because daddy stood in the gap for us all through. My dad loved God. Even in his last days, he never missed an opportunity to say his prayers. They were hourly, 12, 3, 6, 12, 3, 6, like that. He would never miss it. And he'd always make sure everyone around joined him. So my dad didn't just preach love, kindness, patience, forgiveness, service, and honesty. He lived them. He was such a good man. So today, I don't want us to look at this as a sad occasion or a sad event. We're here to celebrate the life of an icon. So just like he'd always recommend, take a deep breath, relax, have grilled fish, and a bottle of your favorite brew. So no more tears. We're here to celebrate the life of Engineer Amana. And, you know, I don't want you to think of his death as stagnation or, oh, we've lost this, we've lost that. Engineer Amana has poured his everything, his life, his knowledge, everything into this industry, into Nigeria. So we haven't lost anything. You have the knowledge, and we need to make him proud. We need to move on with that. Yeah. So, my star boy, my sugar baby, the absolute love of my life, and my perfect gentleman, thank you for giving us the best years of our lives. We love you. Thank you very much for honoring my dad. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amana. Those were really beautiful words for the late engineer. And I'm sure the late engineer Amana will be smiling down on each and every one of us from heaven, you know, fulfilled that indeed he left a great legacy. We've come to the end of this special and remarkable honor, night of tribute to the late engineer Amana. And to do us the honors for the vote of thanks, we'd like to call on Professor Armstrong Gidachaba, the former acting Director General for the NBC. Please, a round of applause for him.
Thank you very much, Ruth, and all the compare. We appreciate you for all you've done this evening. I've been directed or requested by Mr. Thompson Abu to recognize an eminent jurist, a very gentleman, one of the finest breed of legal jurisprudence in this country, Justice Hussein Baba, the Chief Judge of the FCT. Justice Baba, you're welcome. My job is to another director, Engineer Moses, to recognize Engineer Kashim. Engineer Kashim is also our brother. Engineer Kashim, former president of Society of Nigerian Engineers. Engineers, you are welcome. Olale. So the vote of thanks, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, of course I'll follow protocol. Our former minister, honorable minister, Alhaji Mohammed, we want to thank you for going back in time to honor a friend, a collaborator, and a colleague. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you will agree it's a tribute to a gentleman that deserves all the honor and the accolades and the tributes that we rendered tonight. I'd also want to thank the DG of NTA, represented by the young Nimiel. I recall Nimiel was a long time ago when we were in the university, was an announcer at the PRTV or the radio plateau. Today is ED. We thank you for rising in profile on the job and congratulate you. Thanks for representing your DG so well. I recognize also and appreciate our friend, the gentleman, soft-spoken, very Amana-like, DG NBC, Mr. Charles Ibebe. Charlie, you're welcome. Thanks also for all your wonderful contribution and support to this event. Ditto NTA for giving us this arena and all the support we've gotten from you. On behalf of the family and the organizers, the team that put this together, we want to sincerely thank you. How do we salute the Ohi of all Ohis? Former headmaster, former tutor, former principal, traditional ruler, Dr. Tom Adaba, DG NBC. We are very grateful, and there's no other way, no stronger emotional way of paying tribute than you did tonight, making sure and insisting that you had to come all the way to offer, to pay honor to a gentleman that you also contributed in nurturing and giving to Nigeria as one of our finest breed. Thank you so much for coming, and we pray God to grant you longer life and good health. I also want to thank the Deputy Chair, Dr. Adebola of DG I'm happy the DG members are here. I saw a couple of them. As we all said, Amana is somebody that's consummate. Anything he puts his hand, he achieves with ease. But I must say, the digital transition was one naughty problem he carried on his head. He kept telling the DSO story from town to town, to city, country to country, and he couldn't finish the story before he departed. But I pray that in executing and implementing full course the digital switchover, his spirit will be around to lead Nigeria to a successful end. So DG thank you so much for coming. I can share the passion of Club 582. From a distance, I know 582 is that early club, like Dr. Negedu said, that's constituted of young, promising Igala professionals, and they've been there for long. I salute your sense of solidarity, your camaraderie and brotherhood. And I know this is quite a very painful loss, but we thank you for standing by him and also supporting the family and us as committee of friends to also put this together. We thank the family. Thank you so much for being wonderful children. You made this life a lot easier, pleasurable, by the company you shared, by the warmth and affection that you gave to him. And I'm sure, as you've seen tonight, you're going to have very strong, loving memories that will linger on with you. My own appeal to you, show to your own children, extend to them the exceptional, exemplary love that has been bequeathed to you by your good father. Finally, I think that this has been a great evening. I want to acknowledge, in no special order, the committee of friends that actually worked around this program and all other programs that are following in conjunction with the family. Respects to Engineer Yomi Bolariwa, former DG of NTA, Mr. Mark Ojia, former Secretary of the NBC, Mr. Thompson Abu, former party chieftain, radio producer, and the beautiful, the handsome husband of our Eugenia, Mr. Joe Ahutu, Professor Armstrong Idachaba, Engineer Friday Okwela, Mr. Shola Taylor, all the way from CTU in London. Thank you so much for coming. We acknowledge your support and all the good things you've done. Also, Mr. William, who used to be Engineer Amana's host at, is it The Hague or Switzerland? His Excellency, Mr. William, thank you so much for coming. I also want to appreciate our in-law, Mr. Bala Zakari, in-law and brother and a member of the family. Honorable Bala, thanks also for standing by the family at this very critical time. Ladies and gentlemen, this wouldn't have been possible without you. You've gone far into the evening. It's dark. But we also want to thank you sincerely for sharing with us this moment. My parting word will be, when you pass on, will people remember you for good? It's time for you to do good to people so you have a good night of tribute. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, announcement, quick one. Requiem Mass tomorrow at Ogamak, 5 p.m., right? 6 p.m., fine. At which church? Uncle Tom. You should be on the screen. No, okay, Church of the Archangels in Gadua. Time again is 6 p.m. The other program run is with you. I think on the 31st, we leave for Angpa. On the 1st, we leave for Angpa, then there's a wake keep, and then the actual burial happens on the 2nd. We expect that you show love, support us, and join us along the line. And we pray God to grant all of us journey mercies. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, sir. Professor Armstrong Idachaba, the former Acting Director General for MBC. Thank you for the kind words and thank you for the appreciation. We've come to the end of this remarkable night of tribute. Let us go back home, keeping every tiny bit special, dear to you. Anything you know about the late engineer Amana. Please, may we rise for the national prayer, please. The second stanza of the national prayer. And just after that, please, just an information, there's light refreshment. So please, we're asking everyone to take this path so you get it. The second stanza, please, of the national anthem. O God of creation, direct our justice reign. Thank you very much. Have a very good evening.
Genuine joy.